All right, let me ask you this. What if you didn't have to chase every opportunity, but instead you could draw the right ones right to you? Sounds almost too good to be true, right? Well, today's guest is here to show us exactly how that's done. In this episode of The Business Breakout, I am going to be sitting down with Liam Darmody, founder of Liam's Brand Stand, who's all about building personal brand that doesn't just look good, but actually attracts clients, talents, and doors opening left and right. Let's go, and we are here on the next episode of The Business Breakout. Inside those new shoes, and you can rock and roll with an attitude. So good, so fresh, just the way you like it. So here is something that we do not talk about often enough. It is not enough to just show up. You need to show up in a way that makes people take notice. And today we are talking about exactly how to do that. So if you are tired of feeling like you are shouting into the void or constantly trying to sell yourself, this episode is going to give you a whole new perspective on personal branding. But before we go into all of that, if this is your first time here, hey there, I'm Ella Glasgow, your host and the Director of Fundability at Beyond Virtual Events, where I help established small businesses to create impactful virtual experiences. And this just so happens to be the virtual event that I put on every single first and third Wednesday of the month. And I'm inviting you. I produce this live inside of Zoom on the first and third Wednesday of every month. And this is my personal invitation to you to join us in Zoom for the next one, so you can see what's possible for your online events. And depending on where you're watching from, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, the link to register is right here. It's right here. And you may also find it in the description or the comments after the show. So I am really excited to have this guest on today. He is someone, we were just talking backstage about the fact that we've been connected on LinkedIn for, I think, at least 2 years. And this is the first time that we actually get to speak face to face. But he is someone who knows exactly how to turn your personal brand into a magnet for opportunity. He's the founder, like I said, of Liam's Brand Stand, which is literally my favorite name. And he helps entrepreneurs and executives create brands that don't just look good on LinkedIn. They work. They actually work. So please welcome to the Business Breakout, Liam Darmody. Hey, Liam.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going. I'm so
I was a little blue when I joined this morning, but I'm doing great now. You have a way of firing people up. I love it. That's a great intro.
I try. Look, I seriously love the name of your business. When I first saw it, I was like, Liam's Brand Stand. We have to be friends because
that's good to hear.
How did you come up with that name?
Actually, it's there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into it. I created Liam's Brand Stand as the first iteration of my LinkedIn newsletter probably 2 years ago when the LinkedIn newsletter functionality came out. And I just thought to myself, well, it's a simple, straightforward name. It plays off of grandstand and, sort of the idea of like a lemonade stand / newspaper stand. Actually, if you go to my LinkedIn newsletter, you'll see my old branding and my new branding because I have the old branding still there. And this was when I was still a W-2 employee, and branding was really just a passion of mine. And I wasn't really spending much time, developing business around it or anything like that. And it just felt natural. So I don't know if it's going to stay forever, but it works for right now.
I love it. And I see that we've got some people joining us here live. I saw that Lauren Rosario said, woo, woo. She's like, oh, high fives.
Hi, Lauren.
All the high fives. That's awesome. Hey, Lauren.
High fives.
So this is a unique situation that I've got you all to myself today. So I'm going to be asking you all the questions regarding branding and LinkedIn. And one of the first things I noticed about you, in a similarity between the two of us, is that you and I really both believe that branding is not just a nice to have anymore. it's it's something that is non-negotiable if we want to stand out. But I know that people get a bit confused about what all of that really means beyond having a cute profile picture. So with somebody just getting um, into really putting themselves out there, what is the very first shift that they need to start making to get noticed?
So the first thing that you need to do to start really emphasizing your personal brand and kind of amplifying it is finding your voice. And I think a lot of people struggle with that more than you might guess, myself included, right? 5 years ago, when I started creating content intentionally on LinkedIn, I was very much still using the platform like most people do, which is largely a utility for their existing network and a place to find new jobs every few years. And then, in between those experiences, they typically would just sort of leave the platform alone. Um, Now, I think a lot more people are paying attention here, and I think that people are interested in sharing their position and their opinions on things, and our network wants to hear from us, right? Our personalities are very much part of our success. I think you have to have the skills to pay the bills, but people aren't going to work with somebody just because they're skilled if they don't vibe with their personality. And I think that's something that the the more people realize, the more comfortable they will be sharing their perspective on a platform like LinkedIn. So I think that's the biggest piece, is getting comfortable with putting yourself out there. A lot of people doubt themselves. They say, "Oh, I'm not a PhD in that. Who am I to give advice? Who cares what I have to say?" And the truth of the matter is that if you treat LinkedIn a little bit like your community that you're in, whether it's family, friends, colleagues, the water cooler talk, um, you'll probably do okay, because if people talk to you that way in real life and they care what you have to say, your network is an extension of that. So that's really, I think, the biggest hurdle. And then once you get over that, it's off to the races.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say about, being willing to be yourself on a platform like LinkedIn, because
Hmm.
for those of us like you and I that have been probably on the platform since LinkedIn began, and it began as it's completely
2005, yeah.
right. It's completely different than the resume. Just put up a resume and hope somebody finds you. Back in the day when nobody cared about your personality, or at least people thought no one cared about your personality. It is it is intriguing and interesting that we've come to this place now where we have to be willing to do that. But we've been so long um, conditioned to stay behind that piece of paper on
Hmm.
this particular platform. How do you help the clients that you work with to move past that and be willing and understand that it's okay and it's what's needed for them to be able to get ahead of the pack to get where it is they're trying to go?
Great question. It's not an easy answer. It depends on the person. It depends on how ingrained that stigma is. I say it's a LinkedIn stigma. People are more nervous about opening up on this platform than they are elsewhere. And I work with two different distinct sort of groups of people. The first is founders of small businesses who are looking to build their personal brands to market and promote the services or the products that they sell. And then the other is professionals who are looking to build thought leadership brands and attract talent or potential opportunities. And those two distinct groups pose different challenges, right? I think if you're a founder of a business, you're a little bit potentially more comfortable with the fact that your personality is a very large part of your success. So you're maybe more comfortable to put yourself out there than if you're a W-2 employee who works at an organization. In those scenarios, a lot of people are like, I don't really know what my company's stance is on this. I don't want them to think I'm looking for a job. I don't want them to think that I'm promoting over the company brand. But companies, on the other hand, are sitting there saying, we wish that our people would post on LinkedIn more, and they're just not coming to the table and having that conversation. So I sort of help companies facilitate that discussion with their employee base as well. Um, as for founders, I think it's redefining the definition of the word brand, because if you um, think about branding in a traditional marketing sense, it's the very top of the funnel. And the goal of an effective brand campaign is to attract the right audience and detract the wrong audience. And your personality and the things that you put out into the world has the ability to do that. And I think a lot of people spend their time worrying about what if somebody doesn't like what I will have to say, as opposed to reframing that and saying, what if what I have to say is well received and gets me a bunch of new clients because they like my personality? Um, that is a very deep distinction that a lot of people struggle with. And so I think that is really the biggest piece. And once you've gotten over that hump, once you get over the hump of thinking my personality is not a liability, it's an asset to my business or to my personal brand, then you start really feeling liberated and free, because you start posting a lot more casually, a lot more comfortably. You start treating LinkedIn like a community instead of a utility, and a job board. And so it becomes something that is a lot more additive to your life on a daily basis versus once every few years.
Yeah. I hear you on that, and my mind is swirling with questions that I want to ask you regarding all the things that you said, because you brought up a really important point in the fact that um, the companies having to find a way to be able to um, give the breadth and the freedom for their employees to be able to feel comfortable being themselves on LinkedIn, and knowing that they are not necessarily trying to like be out of the company just because they're being themselves on
Right.
LinkedIn or posting things that are potentially personal to them. Um, with that being said, when you are working with people, because I think we're coming to the place where we are understanding and saying out loud that people want to work with people, not entities. And this is what this is what companies are beginning to understand. They want to work with people. The company is great. That's fabulous. So glad that you've got a long-standing history. However, there's a person that I've got to work with on the other side of this. So when you're bringing all those things together for your client, they've come to the other side, or even maybe they're still kind of in the weeds about it, and they're looking at you, and they're looking at what you've done. And I'm asking this because I'm sure you've run across this before, just like I have. Looking at what you've done, looking at your brand, and saying to themselves, but I don't want to be Liam. I want to be, I don't, but my brand doesn't, I don't think I look like that. I don't know how I can't be that. What do you say to them when they have those questions for you or say those things to you?
I say that that's right. You can't be me, right? You can be you. And that, you have to basically do some self-reflection and think about, what do you want your personal brand to be? When people interact with your content online, what do you want them to take away from that interaction? And I tell people that being yourself on this platform, there's people who say being yourself on this platform is not a good thing. And I think, for the vast majority of people, that's horrendous advice, because every single action you take on LinkedIn is a micro ad for your personal brand. And so if you're working in a role, or you're in a specific company, and you own your own company, if you're showing up every this platform, focus hard to find the people that are in your ideal customer profile or your potential every day. Just show up and tell stories and talk from the heart, and give your 2 cents on business, your business, right? Things that impact your business, things that you're fascinated by in business, experiences that you've had, your lived experience, your legacy is really what I think LinkedIn is kind of evolving into. It's what is the context behind the bullets on your resume and the work experience that you've had at specific companies. And if you just get comfortable putting yourself out there every now and then and you get some validation for that, you'll quickly start to realize that, oh, I was wrong. People do actually appreciate what I have to say. And I can put this version of myself out there that is more aligned to what I'm like on a daily basis and not worry that there's going to be massive blowback. And if you think about it, you know, people do business with people. You nailed it on right on the head, right? Like that is ultimately the tale as old as time. And the thought that your personality is somehow going to interfere with them wanting to do business with you. I mean, unless you have a really terrible personality, I think that's a very flawed assumption.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most people, I think, will find people. There's somebody for everybody, and that applies to business as much as anything else. And so, if you're not letting yourself put it out there, then of course you're not going to get any new eyeballs or new engagement. You have to put yourself out there. That's a very much a truth.
Yeah. Tale as old as time. Yeah, sorry. That one.
Exactly.
Look, look, y'all.
That was my favorite Disney movie.
Right? If you didn't know, everybody, I'm thoroughly brainwashed by the mouse, and not just because I watched the movie, because I worked for them. Okay, so I can't help it if Disney songs pop into my head. Liam, woo! I already told you there's so much that I want to talk with you about today. But before we go any further, because y'all, there's some very specific things that we need to talk about regarding LinkedIn accounts. LinkedIn accounts. We're going to come back in just a few minutes to talk with Liam about that specifically and some things that you need to be aware of when it comes to how you're putting your LinkedIn account together and keeping it safe. I'm just going to leave it at that. For those of you that have watched the show in the past, you may remember a guest that I had on previously. Her name was Kasey Jacques. Her name still is Kasey Jacques. Kasey Bryn Jacques. She is a powerhouse vocalist and a performer. And while I don't have her here today, I do have new music from her that I need for you to hear. So please welcome back to the next level stage, Kasey Bryn Jacques.
I fished a bird out of a pile of cigarettes in my ashtray. I could have gone to grab a pack, the store was just a block away. My brain feels like it's bleeding, don't know how I'm still breathing. Alphabet soup spelled you're a fool, but I still hate it all the same. If you're asking me to follow, I will never be a no-show. You know I can never say no, 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 no. I got a fear of missing out. I wanna get drunk and slip up. I need to be talked about. But act like you won't miss me. Sip another beer in the shower. Baby, I'll be ready soon. Sip another beer in the shower. Baby, then I'm coming for you.
I love her so much.
That was great.
Speaking of personal branding and wanting people to not miss you, perfect segue. So, Liam, you and I were talking about LinkedIn and security and all of those kinds of things and putting our stuff together, because you've had an experience this week with your LinkedIn account that I did not think was possible on LinkedIn. For those of you that don't know, LinkedIn, Liam had his account blocked, or what was it exactly? You couldn't get in, right?
Restricted was the word that they used, and it was only on desktop, so I was able to do everything from my phone, but my desktop and my iPad were restricted. So yeah, that was a scary 48 hours, 72 hours. I mean, I wasn't too nervous because it's the first time I've ever encountered that, and um, I was able to fix it and get back up and running.
Yeah, I am glad that you were able to fix it. You and I were talking about whether or not you have a paid account, and now I'm thinking about people that are wanting to maybe work with someone like you to help them to fix their personal branding on LinkedIn. How important is it to have a paid account to do the things that you are teaching people to do? Is it something that you highly recommend? Is it something that you're just like, you don't need it in the beginning? Like where do you stand on that for people that are just getting started with getting things going on LinkedIn?
So I've paid for premium for pretty much 5 to 7 years now. And the reason for that is because I value this platform from a business standpoint. I view LinkedIn as an investment of my time as opposed to other social platforms where I sort of don't view them that way. I view other social platforms as a place for me to go and just consume content, sort of scroll mindlessly and be entertained. And on LinkedIn, I really view it more as an investment into my network, my career, my relationships with other people. And for that reason, I think paying the 29 or the $59 a month for premium is worthwhile because you're just getting the best version of LinkedIn, right? You're getting the version of LinkedIn that enables you to do as much as you would like to do within certain restrictions, right? But like you can send more than 5 custom connection invites, right? With a note. You can't do that with the free plan. And I actually, when I started my business, upgraded to Sales Navigator, which is about $80 a month. So it's not cheap, but that's the Ferrari of LinkedIn, right? That is the upper echelon of the premium plans. It gives you unfettered access to pretty much everybody in the business world. You can, search for people with 36 different filters as opposed to 12 filters. You can build lead lists of specific people in different companies, different functions, different roles, whatever your ICP might be. And you can start to build little micro feeds for yourself that allow you to comment strategically on the content being created by people in your ideal customer profile or in companies where you want to work. And the whole idea of building a personal brand, right, is being on the radar of people that you want to know so that when an opportunity presents itself to them, they'll think of you first. That's really what, at the highest level, an effective personal brand does. And I think a lot of people kind of get it twisted a little bit. They're like, oh, I build a personal brand and within 3 months, I'm going to have all this stuff happening. And it's not that. It's a snowball that you're rolling and it's getting bigger and it's getting bigger. And, it eventually starts to provide you with a tremendous amount of momentum. But you've got to build it slowly and intentionally and consistently and have patience. And so that's really, for me, the thing that is most important is to set your expectations accordingly and make sure that you realize what you're doing is not going to necessarily convert business immediately, but
Mhm.
in the long term, over 1, 2, 3 years, if you keep consistent with it and you keep building and you keep investing in relationships and connecting with other people and commenting on other people's content, you're really going to benefit.
Yeah.
So if you are on LinkedIn to do business development for your company, Sales Navigator is, in my opinion, a must-have and a no-brainer.
Yeah. I totally get that. And you mentioned something that's really important that I learned um, from you and from there are so many wonderful people on LinkedIn that are showing us how to use this doggone platform properly. And the biggest thing that I've learned is about commenting strategically,
Mm,
because if you are doing what the majority of people do on, say, like a Facebook or any other place, and just leave an emoji or just be like ha, or
yep.
nothing that gives any addition to the actual conversation, because I think that's the piece that people miss on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is literally just a virtual networking event.
Totally.
and leaving an emoji or just an LOL is literally like walking past somebody's group and be like, ah, and skipping out, and everybody's just like, who? Okay, whatever. And they keep on carrying on with the conversation. You have to actually say something, say actual words beyond letters that that impart and will add to the conversation, and also gives insight into who you are and what you're about, without you necessarily having to say specifically, I'm here to sell X, Y, and Z pieces of things, and I believe that.
That's totally right. If you put yourself out there and you consistently share things that are of value to other people about the industry that you're in, the business that you're in, if you share your personality, posting things that are funny gets a lot of traction on LinkedIn. If you can be humorous and, you can get people to say, I really like this person's content, they'll look at your posts when you're pitching, they'll refer you to other people, they'll look at your profile, they'll look at what you do. And the whole idea is get people to think, it might be cool to work with that person in some capacity. That's all you want them thinking about. Because once the bug is in their ear, then they're going to constantly kind of think about that every time they see you. It's like a commercial that you're seeing over and over again, or being targeted on Instagram for some ad that you've seen. Similar concept, right? You're creating content that provides value to other people so that they can become familiar with who you are and start thinking about the idea of potentially working with you. And when that starts to happen, things start to take care of themselves a little bit.
Yeah. I can't believe how quickly this half hour has gone by. It has literally flown.
It has gone by.
So I'm going to give you one last thing to think about, because I always ask at least one final question that will give our audience something to gnaw on before they go away. And I see we've had some people here with us live today. I just saw Erica said some conversations be like double dutch. It's hard to find your way in sometimes. You're right. It is true. Sometimes it is hard to find your way into the conversation, and that makes it a little bit challenging to be a part of the conversation. But I bet you, just like any other networking event, if you walk around the room a little bit, I bet you'll find a conversation that's relevant to you, and you will have something relevant to say. So Liam, my final question for you, for those that are ready to take their personal brand seriously, but they feel a little bit like it's a whole lot to try and do it, and we don't know where to begin, Lord Jesus. What's the one piece of advice that you would give them to move forward feeling confident that they've begun in the right direction?
The one piece of advice I would give is not to overthink it. The truth of the matter is that people aren't sitting around waiting to judge you negatively for the content that you're creating. That's not what LinkedIn is about. That's very much a concern on other social platforms. I was recently roasted on Reddit. I've been posting to TikTok. I've never yet had a positive comment from anybody on TikTok. LinkedIn's just a different beast, and people here are here to support you, to lift you up, to see you succeed. That's kind of the ethos of the community. So be confident that that is where people are coming from, and that is how people are viewing your content. And they're either going to engage, they're going to either stop and read it, they're going to leave a comment, or they're going to scroll past it, and then they're going to go on with their day. Nobody's sitting around saying, oh, did you see that post that Ella put out or that Liam put out? They're not going to start talking about it with their friends. It's a very short window in time that you have to capture somebody's attention. And then if, it doesn't end up turning into something that's a conversation, then you try again the next day, and then the next day, and the next day. And as long as you keep showing up authentically yourself, you'll start to realize that people do engage with that over time, and you're being true to yourself. So it's liberating. So don't overthink it. Be yourself, and use this fantastic platform that is, to your point, like a networking event, a gigantic networking event. And the only thing is, instead of walking into a room and being like, well, that person's available, I'm going to go talk to them, you can actually figure out who you want to talk to before you walk in the door. And that's really powerful. It puts a lot of control in your hands. And that's really what makes LinkedIn a relationship machine. It's fantastic for that purpose.
I love that. I love that. Liam, thank you so much for being here today and giving your incredible
Thank you
insight,
for
letting
having
us
me.
know that people are not waiting around to just tear us down
Right.
on
That's right.
LinkedIn. They're not just waiting around to
That's
tear us
right.
down. It has been wonderful having Liam here today to really share his valuable insight for what's possible for you on LinkedIn, because he's brought us some serious insight, y'all, so that we can get to it. We can get to it and stop overthinking it and really understand what that personal brand is for us and how you can show up online. So I hope that today that you're leaving with some fresh ideas and some practical steps so you can start building your presence that attracts the right opportunities, because I want you to remember that personal branding is less about looking perfect and more about being authentic and intentional. And like any great virtual event, it's about creating a real connection that resonates with people. And speaking of being authentic intentionally, that is exactly what we do at Beyond Virtual Events. It's not just about hosting virtual events. It's about crafting engaging experiences with purpose, because an event is a stepping stone. And when you do it right, it can transform a single moment into a cascade of marketing opportunities for you and your business. And if you're ready to elevate your virtual presence to the next level with your next event into a powerhouse of ongoing lead generating engagement without tech headaches, I'm here to help you make that happen. And if you want to see this in action, you can come and join me right here in Zoom for the next virtual event that we produce, the Business Breakout, on the first and third Wednesday of every month, where I produce this unconventional virtual event designed to inspire and engage. So until next time, remember, when you show up like you're going to show up, everything you do can go far beyond. We'll see you next time.